which would be fine too. I encourage it. We want to have a meeting in Zoom. You should go ahead and do it. So, all right. So I believe we are live on YouTube. And Iris, would you please pray us in?
Yes, good morning, Lynn. Good morning, all. And I'll pray in. I am here only to be truly helpful. I am here to represent Him who sent me. I do not have to worry about what to say or what to do, because He who sent me will direct me. I am content to be wherever He wishes, knowing He goes there with me. I will be healed as I let Him teach me to heal. Amen.
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 Yay. So I've got us. Let me go and open up the
water to help with my memory. My friends laughed at me.
Uh-oh, what happened?
How much
That's
I'd
probably
improved.
me.
They started doing
I'm
it
sorry.
themselves.
Let me mute ya. There we go. It is good to drink warm water. I do appreciate doing that. I put coffee in it and cream and sugar. Sometimes tea, but it's all the same, right? All right. Do. The way this screen share is weird. It says I'm screen sharing. Are you seeing the? Okay, there we go. The text in the room.
Not yet. I don't think. Say. Oh yes.
Okay, good. All right. So I went back and I think, are we still in right teaching and right learning, Iris?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that's what I remember. It's a long one, right?
Yeah, we're in paragraph 12.
Oh, good. Well, we're getting there then.
Yeah, we're getting there.
Yeah,
Slowly but
I thought I went
slowly.
back and I was like, well, here we're still at the beginning. Okay, but that's
Yeah.
okay. Oh, this is good.
Yeah, it's a great paragraph.
Yeah, I had a really interesting, in fact, from this section, the conversation this morning with a group, and we were talking about today's lesson, and I mentioned, well, uh, you know, my- we don't really have to do anything at all, and Jesus will, he tells us that he'll substitute for our ego, and we don't even have to worry about our body or anything because he'll do everything for us. Of course, that's kind of a sweet way of saying, well, it's already done, so just keep your eyes on me and we'll be fine. But I mentioned that, and one of the people in the group was kind of surprised. They're like, "What? What do you mean? I don't have to drive the car? Jesus would drive the car?" I'm like, "Absolutely." But Jesus doesn't get involved in the world. No, Jesus does not get involved in the world, but the world itself is already done. So, all Jesus is doing is um, basically helping us keep our mind on the truth instead of on this illusion. Driving the car is an illusion, a very big, hard, and dangerous illusion, but 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 it is just part of the dream. And so we talked about that a little bit, and so I said, just, go ahead and look as you're reading the course, think about it in terms of this is not something I need to do. All I need to do is focus on the Holy Spirit, focus on my true self, and everything is already done for me because it's already done. That car has been driven, got to its destination, went back home. It's done everything already before I even get into it. So, who is in the car? It's me watching, the character in the car, which is really pretty abstract. But then I said, and we had a little bit of discussion about it. And I said, well, think about this. You know, Jesus says, I need do nothing. And then he says, I need do nothing except not to interfere. And when I said, I need do nothing except not to enter fear, I realized that that was a word play that Jesus gave us. Not to interfere, not to enter fear. And if I stay out of fear, then it's all done for me already because it is already done. So anyway, interesting conversation, and I thought that was kind of a cute um, insight into the wordplay of Jesus. I need do nothing except not to enter fear. Anyway, who wants to read paragraph 12 here? And I should put up my participant just so I can see if you put up your hand.
I just wanted to mention that not to interfere is another hack from Jesus.
Big time hack from Jesus. I love that, Dove. Thank you. All right, Iris, please go ahead.
Oh, thank you, Lynn. I'm going to make a note of that. Thank you, Dove. I'm going to make a note of that because that is amazing. I need do nothing except not to interfere. Or I need do nothing except not to enter fear. Wow. That's amazing. That just is amazing. Just that one sentence. And then I'll read from paragraph 12. Of your ego, you can do nothing to save yourself or others. But of your spirit, you can do everything for the salvation of both. Humility is a lesson for the ego, not for the spirit. Spirit is beyond humility because it recognizes its radiance and gladly sheds its light everywhere. The meek shall inherit the earth because their egos are humble, and that gives them truer perception. The kingdom of heaven is the spirit's right, whose beauty and dignity are far beyond doubt, beyond perception, and stand forever as the mark of the love of God for his creation, who are wholly worthy of him and only of him. Nothing else is sufficient. Nothing else is sufficiently worthy to be a gift for a creation of God himself. So, yeah. So this paragraph is really quite brilliant. I love it. It's amazing. And it's true, like I remember well, even now, like I have this constantly, that when I want to be helpful, which I do, which everyone does, like everybody wants to be helpful, and but we just make a muddle of it. Like speaking about me, like when I want to be helpful and I don't ask how to be truly helpful, I'm here only to be truly helpful, I just make a complete muddle of it. So like what was meant to be helpful is just a complete mess, And so he's right. It says here, of your ego, you can do nothing to save yourself or others, but of your spirit, you can do everything for the salvation of both. And like, I mean, even like a simple example, like to try and help someone with quote advice, like in the 12 steps, they say like, don't give unsolicited advice. If someone hasn't asked you, then don't give them advice because, my advice is like wrong for them. So like, just be there for people, like, and by being there means just listen. Sometimes people just want someone to hear them, and acknowledge what they're saying and say something like, I understand. And humility is a lesson for the ego, not for the spirit. I love that. Spirit is beyond humility because it recognizes its radiance and gladly sheds its light everywhere. And that is just like that day when we were speaking about, like, when somebody compliments us, like to say thank you, like to accept the compliment, like, thank you, I did a great job. Amazing, thank you. Like, and then the meek shall inherit the earth because the egos are humble, and this gives them truer perception. The kingdom of heaven is the spirit's right, whose beauty and dignity are far beyond doubt, beyond perception, and stand forever as the mark of the love of God for his creations, who are wholly worthy of him and only of him. Nothing else is sufficiently worthy to be a gift for a creation of God himself. So like, this is so amazing because like this idea that like I have to find peace somewhere, like and it says the same thing in lesson 47. It says that peace is your right because you have given your trust to the strength of God. Peace is our right because it's just something God has given. He hasn't bargained with us. Like, he hasn't done like a business transaction. Like, if you do this and I'll do this and then we're good. No, it's like peace is our right. It is what we are. And like, it's amazing. It's like peace is here in the now. And it's always here. And I just have to choose it. I just have to choose peace instead of this. I choose peace instead of this. And it's like all links in really well. Like even in that lesson, I was looking at that lesson this week, that God's voice speaks to me all through the day. And it says in that lesson that there are two parts in the mind. There is one part which is constantly like disorganized, it's chaotic, it's just complete mess. But that is not what we are. And there is the other part which is in constant communion with God, and to listen to this voice. And it's speaking to us even in this world all through the day. And so I'll hand back to Lynn.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, Iris. What a beautiful breakdown there. And yeah, what what a wonderful idea it is to know that Spirit is in charge and that everything is being done in like today's lesson, that it's all the will of God. And that doesn't mean that the dream is the will of God, but my connection with with all of everything is God's will. It's perfect happiness is what we are. So yeah, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And I think this is really important for us to see clearly as we can right now. about the, what we consider the ego, uh, it seems so powerful, doesn't it? It seems so, it can get you whipped up in a frenzy. It can terrify you. It can make you very excited. It can make you very angry. It can make you very afraid. You, there's so many things that this this ego seems to have such a power over us, right? And that, I'm at the whims of my ego. I'm at the whims of this thing that just keeps me in a state of constant fear and constant tension. And the only way that that's going to stop being the case is for me to become the master of my own mind and control over my own thoughts. And that at that point, then I align with spirit and recognize that the ego itself is just a little thing that has really no power whatsoever. It's just like the worm in my brain that's been keeping me thinking things are going crazy. But once I recognize that I'm the one in control, the ego has to become my servant. My I control the ego then. I not in that kind of I control the ego way, but the ego becomes humble and becomes more helpful. And he talks about having a humble ego, and that's again kind of on a spectrum, isn't it? Because we have a humble ego and we have it's the same thing. It's just how much power I give to it and how much I believe that what it's telling me is true. And he talks about perception. The humble ego, when the ego becomes humble, it has we have truer perception, so we can see the truth, so that when what we are is recognize what we are is beyond perception, that all this world of perception becomes uh, meaningless, and the ego then has to just say, yeah, never mind. Never mind. I thought I had you, but obviously, you're smarter than me. Anyway, uh, I think this is something really, just to recognize that the power that we give the ego, um, we assign to the ego, versus the power we assign to the Holy Spirit is greatly imbalanced in most of us, because most of us are going to believe what the ego says and kind of go, okay, yeah, okay, boomer, which my daughter says to me, okay, boomer, to the Holy Spirit. And it's not that. Anyway, I see Karen has her hand up, and Mickey. Go ahead, Karen.
Thanks, Len, and thank you, Iris. And yeah, I agree. I agree with what you just said. It is sometimes it takes a lot of mind training and a lot of practice to listen to one voice. And I know the ego the last couple of days has been really speaking in my ear pretty consistently, and it's been it's I know it's not the truth. Sometimes I believe it, and I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm not going to go into details, but that's that's just, where I allow myself to give it power sometimes, and that's what I need to look at when I allow it to give it power, like you said. And it's we don't have to do that. We are in control. I am responsible. I am in control. And I love what Iris shared, and I love this paragraph, like, of your ego you can do nothing to save yourself or others, but of your spirit you can do everything for the salvation of both. And I love what Iris shared about listening. And I know there's a quote, I'm paraphrasing, but it says something like the greatest form, or the kindest form, the loudest form of listening is kindness. and something like that. It's just being kind. And when you listen to someone, you can be there as the aware space that is listening. It's like being that presence, not the person, just being that presence, being that space, and just listening, and not like, oh, like, what am I going to say next? And, not judging or evaluating what they're saying, just being the presence, just being quiet. And that's what I've been practicing with my daughter. And I notice when I slip and I might say something, or slip in something, how she'll react. The difference, she'll be like, all right, mom, I gotta go, or something like that. Like, she doesn't want to hear it. And so I've noticed that, just be the presence, just let the person speak, because like Iris said, sometimes they just need someone to listen, and they don't want to really hear what you have to say unless they ask. That's a whole different story. They ask, that's a whole nother story. But yeah, I need to be reminded of that. So thank you, Iris. I think that is so important, because that's something I try to practice. And for some reason, it's easier for me to practice it with my granddaughter than it is my daughter. Um, and that's something I have to look at too. So thank you so much.
Yeah, I love that, Karen. And yeah, the reason I think, because I think the same thing, it's easier with my granddaughter than with my daughter, because I don't feel personally responsible for my granddaughter. I feel personally responsible for my daughter. She is what I made of her. So maybe I don't know if that's true or not, but I do think that. Anyway, Vicky, please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, all of you, Iris and Lynn and Karen. Um, something that Lynn said really struck me, the thing about falling prey to the ego. Was that what you said, Lynn? Something,
I
you
don't
know,
know.
when we're falling prey to the, shrieking of the ego's voice. And all of a sudden it occurred to me, if we who are listening for spirit, if we who know what the ego's up to and can stare it down and we know its tricks, how much are people who are totally unaware of this, who are craving power and listening to that voice that thinks everything is a threat, that they have to claw and fight their way through the world, how much more are they falling prey to the ego, and how excruciating must that be? And I just had a moment of complete compassion, which doesn't come very frequently for people who I think are abusing power or are, doing things that I consider bad for the world and all of that. I very infrequently can locate a space of compassion in myself for them. But in that moment that Lynn was talking about, that all of a sudden I just saw, like, we at least have shrunk the ego down into this little voice, that sometimes speaks very loudly in our ear, but we know it's only about an inch tall, sitting on our shoulders. How enormous, how gargantuan must the ego be to those who are in such a battle with the world, that battle with the world and feel embattled. I don't know, it just hit me like a wall, that the enormity of what they must be going through. And compassion arose for a minute. So, yep, we gotta, every once in a while, we've got to look at, everyone is fighting a really hard battle, and we have to look at it that way. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you for that, Mickey. Wow, yeah. And as you were saying that, I was imagining probably one of the people you might have been speaking about, just terrified little man, just laying awake at night, trying to figure out how am I going to fix this? How am I going to get out of this? How am I going to get what I need? It's just the terror of a person who is so caught up in the ego mind that they can't see um, a way out. And that's what I think, what I see these people doing is just trying to find a way out of their deep terror. And thank God for this course, because this course is telling me that that terror is in my own mind. That's a projection of my own thinking, and I have to see it. I have to let it go for myself. But I can't let it go for myself unless I see how it is that I am doing it too. Thank God for this course. Iris, please go ahead.
Thank you, Lynn. Yeah, like that is really, really a very important point that Lynn was mentioned earlier, and Mickey like brought it up, and it's like it's really important. And it's like that lesson that I review this lesson quite often, but then I seem to forget about it. Like after I've reviewed it, but it says in lesson 236 that I rule my mind, which I alone must rule. I have a kingdom I must rule. At times it does not seem I am its king at all. And like I'll pause there with that lesson, but it's like it's true, like because when when there is some situation or something that we see, or I don't know, like, and then there are like many different thoughts, or just going about our day, like there would be different thoughts. And it's really important, speaking to myself, that really I need to pay attention to this, because because last week I remembered, and the week before, like that, like out of all the thoughts that are going on in my mind about this situation, like maybe I don't like it for this reason, or I like it, or I want something, or I think I need something, like many different thoughts are going on. But then there is like one thought from all those loads of thoughts going on, but there is one thought that says that whatever I think I need from this situation is not a true thought, because I don't need anything from this situation. Like I just have to be here. And like it's true, there is a quiet thought that says that I don't need to do anything. I just need to be here. And I don't need to. That advice about reacting is so important. Like it's saying that don't react, because we're just reacting to our own thoughts. And sometimes it's just best to keep quiet, speaking to myself, like best to keep quiet until the fog goes away, until the fog lifts. And then I can see clearly, like, oh, I can see clearly. I'm glad I kept quiet. I can see like all that noise going on in my head, which was not a true thought, but now I can see clearly, like that one thought. So there's normally like an option that we can choose from. Like there'll be a million thoughts that will be all different ones, conflicting ones, this and that, like, but there'll be one thought of peace. And there'll 100% be one thought of peace. And like to choose that thought, choose that guidance. And that guidance is I can see peace instead of this. And that really seems to work. It really works, but it needs me to be present, not go completely, like, get carried away with, like, those thoughts, because ultimately those thoughts are coming from conditioning, like behavior and patterns, and whatever we may have learned, or past thoughts. That's where it's coming from. Like, I see only the past, and that is the reason why nothing I see here means anything. And, like, it really makes sense. Like, if I really look properly, like, if I'm looking, it really makes sense. So just to remind myself, and handing back to Lee.
Thank you, Iris. Man, absolutely, absolutely. So perfect. Thank you so much. And I'm going to let Karen speak. Go ahead, Karen.
Yeah, right on, right on. I love lesson 34 and lesson 34. I could see peace instead of this. And I also like, which I know Lynn loves too, is on page 90 in chapter 5, where he says, I must have decided wrongly because I am not at peace. And that comes to me every single time. I must have decided wrongly. And I notice that it's a decision that I'm making, and I can choose again. And the other thing that you shared that I love, I always think of with lesson, it's let's see, I think it's lesson 253. Oh no, it's 236, lesson 236. I rule my mind, which I alone must rule. And then there's another one that's similar to that. And it's like I am the ruler of the universe, or myself is the ruler of the universe, something like that. And I think when they're repeated like that, they're repeated because we need to remember that I am responsible. That's another one. And in the last unanswered question, they're the same questions. It's all the same. And we're constantly being reminded of the power of decision. Lesson 153, that the power of decision is my own. And that this is the greatest power, he tells us, the greatest power that we were given was the power to change our mind. And I know this, but I don't always do it. And so I need to be reminded all the time, because when I get in an ego rut and I'm actually believing my thoughts, I need to remember these things, and that I can choose again. I don't have to stay there, and I could see peace instead of this. And it sounds so easy, but when you're in something that seems so real at the time, and you just feel like you can't get out of the thought, and you're really believing it, it's like a prison. So that's when I say I could see peace instead of this, and I could see this as a classroom instead of a prison. And what am I to learn here? What would you have me learn? What is the lesson? And it's always to just let go of my idea of how I think things should be, and you know be here now and stop. I'm either worrying about the past, like you said, or bringing the past into the present, or I'm thinking about the future and what I have to do and stressing about that. I'm never in the present moment. So it's like it's always the same. It's really always ends up being the same thing, but I'm on that what is it called? That wheel that there's a wheel.
Samsara.
Yes, thank you. That's it. I keep getting on that wheel, and I got to get off. So thank you for helping me get off today. Love you guys.
Thank you, Karen, and thank you, Iris. And yeah, and I'm glad you both brought up lesson 236, because that's kind of been my little mantra there as well. That really it's up to me to make the choice. That's all it is. It's just up to me to make the choice. And we're looking at today's lesson. There is no will but God's. When I looked at that this morning, I'm like, first off, the habit. We have to build up the habit, and Jesus tells us, twice an hour, two times every half hour, just stop and say these things to ourselves. I'm under no will but God. There's no will but God's. I can't be in conflict. I can't be in conflict. So if I think that something is going wrong, I just have to stop and say, everything is happening just the way that it is. I have nothing to do with it. The only thing I have to do is choose who I'm going to see this with and who I'm going to listen to it with. And so I mean, we really need to practice, unscrewing the light bulb or we need to practice, getting out of here because we are the light and we don't need that bulb. Dove, please go ahead. I needed to finish that with something, but anyway, go ahead, Dove.
Okay, but yeah, we're all looking at the idea that actually Iris brought up a little bit earlier, which I thought was brilliant. She says, don't react. We are just reacting to our own thoughts. Now, the whole idea of thoughts, they aren't our thoughts, they are the ego's thoughts, which is going to be part of what we're going to be sharing on Sunday, March 30th. It's really what Regina was sharing, I think it was last Sunday or whatever it was. Yeah, it was last Sunday. She was sharing on thoughts, and she actually said like it was a big aha for her. And you're talking about Regina, who's been around a lot of big ahas, that the thoughts are our ego. And then, of course, almost the next day, Mandy was talking about uh, is that our thoughts or is that God? And we have a beautiful poem which Lynn's going to be reading as the reader. So looking at what Iva said, don't react. We're just reacting to our own thoughts. And I said, wow, brilliant. And then I kind of looked up the word react in the course. And I believe it or not, it only appears twice. Believe it, I thought it would be hundreds of times, but it only appears twice. One of them I put up on the board here from one of my all-time favorite sections, text chapter 27, section 8, the hero of the dream. And they're talking about, of course, the ego is the hero of the dream. And he says, for you would not react at all. This is also one of Ken Wapnick's all-time favorite quotes. For you would not react at all to figures in a dream that you knew that you were dreaming. Let them be as hateful, as vicious as they may. They could have no effect on you unless you fail to recognize it is your dream. Of course, that's the whole course, really. Forgiveness is about I'm the dreamer. I dreamed these people up. I invited them in, and of course, I want them to do that. Yes, I want to be a victim. I want to be offended. So others are guilty, not me. I'm innocent. And then we get down to the bottom, which I didn't put up yet. So this is another one. Text chapter 6, section 5. And I took a look at it, and this correlates perfectly with Karen's favorite lesson along I can choose peace instead of this, lesson 34, which happens to be one of Ken Wapnick's two favorite lessons also. But that's the lesson in the workbook. When you get over to the textbook, this is the mirror. It's called the three lessons of the Holy Spirit. And the first one we all know, chapter 6, section 1a, to have, give all to all. Now, the second one is called to have peace, teach peace, to have it. And he starts right off. He says, "Hey, listen, the first thing in this letting go process is to stop this getting habit. You already have everything, but we think we need to get something." And I think a lot of our reactions are into trying to be right. Being right is a big get. I want to win. I want to win an Oscar, or whatever it is you want to win. You want to win the argument. What argument? Between you and a dummy, you mean? So the last one here says, thanks for the reminder, Ira. Oh, no, that's Karen. Thanks for reminding. Now, so the third one is still strongly aware of the ego in yourself. And I probably need a little help on this. And if anyone can decipher this, when I use the word hacks from Jesus a long time ago, and Zulma was one of the people that I was talking about this about, I don't know, 15 years ago when Zulma first started. Whenever Jesus uses a 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 word sentence, those are hacks. He doesn't want you to miss it. You know, like I can't think of a 2, 3, like God is definitely a hack. But what I was going to say is that the iambic pentameter, which he uses to keep the ego going, he's talking to the Son of God when he gives you a 2, 3, 4, 5 word sentence, like all things happen for the good, everything happens for you. Those are hacks. So here he says, still strongly aware of the ego in yourself and responding primarily to the ego in others. This is iambic pentameter. But you are being taught to react to both as if what you do believe is not true. Now, I can't even interpret that, to be very honest with you, other than do not react. Do not react is a hack for sure. Iris, your hand is up.
Thank you, Dove. Yeah, like that sentence, yeah. Thank you for posting that about still strongly aware of the ego in yourself. This is correct. And responding primarily to the ego in others. You're being taught to react to both as if what you do believe is not true. This happens to me on a daily basis, multiple times. And this is true because like the ego comes up and the voice of the ego is very, very, very loud. Yeah, it's very, very loud. And when I say ego, I mean like the thoughts of attack, defense, protect, get something, this type of stuff. Yeah, especially like when you're working in like a work environment, it's coming up all the time. And it's like, there's a part of us that's listening to that stuff. Like that voice comes first. And then if I'm unconscious, I think the other person is doing something, like they're doing something. They're doing something, quote, to me, quote. And that's exactly because of this sentence, still strongly aware of the ego in myself and responding primarily to the ego in others. In truth, it doesn't mean anything, like whether or not this project works or not it doesn't really matter. It's really not important at all. But when I come in my right mind, when I'll give it some space, because it will calm down, like the voice of the ego will get quiet, like it will. And as in like it'll come down as kind of like a radio, it'll calm down when I take a space. And then I can hear like the quietness, like I can hear the peace that says that nothing's happening, really. Like honestly, there's nothing I need to do, and I just need to realize these thoughts or this flurry of thoughts are not real, and I'm just reacting to the thoughts. But like the last part of the sentence, it's saying that you're being taught to react to both as if what you do believe is not true. Now, this is a really hard part, which is where, like, I really see it happening, like, and then I keep quiet, like, I don't react to that noise in my head. And I literally just don't say anything. I keep quiet, and I'm being taught to realize those thoughts are not true. They're not the truth. And I just have to take it at that. Like, because I mean, even if I do it like a really simple thing, like, are these thoughts coming from God? And they're not, because they're attack defense thoughts. Yeah. So they're not coming from God. So, like, I just keep quiet, and then I can sort through them, like, later when the noise calms down, and then I can see, like, oh, I can see, like, oh, that wasn't true. That was just like a quote storm in a teacup. And, like, it's really, like, this is really, really very, very important, like, amazingly important. I mean, I think it's the really, really important to see this and to remind myself of this, like, because no one is doing anything to me, it's just the thoughts in my head that I'm reacting to, like, and so, yeah, handing back to Dove.
Thank you, Iris. I'm interested to hear what Karen has to say about that as well. And yeah, I see. I mean, when you start looking at it in your own life, and you see what you do believe, and that's what Jesus is talking about, is what you do believe, not what is real, but what you do believe. Um, that you're going to be in conflict totally. And I just kind of put up the rest of that from that lesson, or that um, section. He says the way out of conflict between two opposing thought systems is to clearly choose one and relinquish the other. Um, so that's what he's telling us. You have a thought system that's telling you that we're unequal, that there is a reason to be afraid, there's a reason to wonder, there's a reason to want to change things or eliminate the competition or whatever it is that you think you need to do. You believe very clearly, you have a belief system. And so what you do believe versus what is true is so completely different. So he's just explaining to us why it's so hard for us is because I have no reason to believe anything else, because my life and the world have taught me that. And yeah, people are dangerous, bad things can happen, all that stuff. Yeah, wow. Anyway, go ahead, Karen, please.
Yeah, this is such a good conversation. I love what Iris shared. I agree 100%. And I love what you just shared too, Lynn, because that particular paragraph, I mean, that particular sentence, the way out of conflict between two opposing thought systems is clearly to choose one and relinquish the other. I've been looking at that a lot lately, and there's so much. Like, he talks about the strength of the undivided decision, your undivided decision, there's no strain in doing God's will. As soon as you recognize that it's also your own, that undivided decision, that one choice, that one just listen to that one voice, but it's throughout the whole entire course, and it's so interesting, because that's all it takes is to change your mind. It's the miracle. That's it. That's the way out of conflict, and that is everything right there. But I love everything Iris shared, and there's not much I can add to it because it's so perfect. But just to add to it, these early lessons support that. Like lesson 10, my thoughts do not mean anything. This idea applies to all the thoughts of which you are aware or become aware. The reason the ideal is applicable to all of them is because they are not your real thoughts. So that is the key to recognize this, that's still strongly aware of the ego in yourself and responding primarily to the ego in others. You are being taught to react to both as if what you do believe is not true, as if what you do believe is not true. These are not my real thoughts, and the ego wants us to believe in them. And once we recognize, like this quick story, I know we run out of time. It's a dream. I shared this the other day about a friend of mine had this dream, and this is like the um that the there's a name for it. You'll know it when I tell you. I can't think of the name of it. The lucid dreaming. It's the lucid dreamer. So he had this dream, this continual dream, and it kept happening every night that this shark was chasing him. And he was terrified, and he would wake up sweating and sweating and scared and shaking. And then one time, after so many times in the dream, he looked at the shark and saw the shark wasn't real. He recognized he was dreaming. And once he recognized he was dreaming, the shark swam away. It was like it never came back again. He never dreamed a dream again. So this is the same thing in the waking dream. Is to recognize the awareness of dreaming is the real function of God's teachers. That's in the manual for teachers. And that is what we're asked to do here, to recognize that it's just a dream and I'm taking it seriously. And once he saw that shark wasn't real, the dream never came back. The fear never came back. He never woke up in fear again. So, and he brought that into his waking dream. So that's takes a lot of practice. It sounds simple and it can be very simple, but it's not always that simple. But thank you. This is such a good conversation. It's been so helpful. Love you guys.
I love it too. It's so beautiful. I so appreciate our Saturday mornings together. Dove, please go ahead.
All right, thank you for that, Karen. That was a nice way to look at that section. What I raised my hand about is Elizabeth asked a question earlier, and I don't blame you, Elizabeth. I was in the same place about 3, 4, 5 years ago. Elizabeth asked a question on the board, what is a hack? Now, I never heard of a hack because I think you and I are the same age, and hacks is something in modern times. Everyone talks about hacks. Oh, it's a great hack, and there are books full of hacks, and you go to on the internet, and there's apps full of hacks, but the one thing about hacks, you can read about them and you can talk about them, but unless you do it, you don't really know it's true. Like one that came to me just recently, and I do all the time, is the next door neighbor who really understands the dental practice. She was saying that what's good for your gums and teeth is eat a raw onion in the morning. So I listened to her, and the first time I ate a raw onion, oh my God, you can't eat a raw onion without having all the after effects. So I happened to mention it to another friend of mine. She says, I'll put the onions in water overnight and maybe add a little honey to the water. And now I can eat an onion in the morning and it's like eating fruit. I mean, now that's a hack. Now, you can see hundreds of hacks, but unless you actually do it, it doesn't mean anything. So a hack from Jesus is, and I found out one other thing, whenever he uses the word only in a sentence, and whenever I speak on the course, the word only is a big word. Only. Whenever you see the word only, that's a hack. He's telling you to do it. A hack to me is any 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 word sentence in which he's not doing iambic pentameter, which the whole course is in. He's telling you, listen to me. I'm telling you this. Do it. And there's so many 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 word sentences. They stick out. So, like, I know a lot of people think I'm not listening when I'm here, and I might be looking over here, and they say, "Well, he's not even listening." No, my mind is absolutely tuned to the Holy Spirit speaking to me. When there's a 2, 3, 4, 5, I hear it, and immediately I wake up from doing something else, and I say, "Oh, wow, yes," because that's Jesus speaking directly to me. Now, I don't know if that helps you with the word hack, but it really means hacks from Jesus is he wants you to hear him. He doesn't give it to you in a long sentence, iambic pentameter. He gives it to you in 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 word sentences. He wants you to hear him. That's a hack.
You're muted, Lynn.
You are always so helpful, Mickey. I love it. Yeah, when I start noticing those things, which I had never noticed before either, till I heard Dove talking about it. There really are just some pretty amazing uh little lines that Jesus throws in here that once you read it and get it, you're like, oh my gosh. Yeah, how could it be so simple? But yeah. Uh, anyway, anybody else have anything they'd like to share? And welcome, Rafi and Dee. And good to see you all this morning and hope everything's going well. Um, anyway, anybody else have anything they'd like to share before we close out? Rafi, please go ahead.
Just building on what Dove just said, the difference between intellectualizing and experiencing is all the difference there is. I mean, you can walk by a marquee on a theater and on it, it says Casablanca. That doesn't mean you saw the movie, you know. But if you experience something with it, it stays with you forever. Otherwise, it's just a lot of talk. It's just a lot of intellectualizing, jibber jabber jibber. Oh, you should do this and this and this and this is a great thing and this is reality and this is the mind and this is stuff but until you experience all that stuff, it's just a lot of talk. And what is talk is just words, and words are just thoughts, and thoughts are just images. So what you dealing with a bunch of images that are bouncing around and believing that the images are true or ignoring them, they're still just images. But once you experience and you take it into your heart and you know that you know that you know that you know, that's all the difference. And that's the what makes it real. That's what that's what it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Rafi. And yes, I mean, it seems so simple on this side of it. And oftentimes I fall on the other side as well. So, but I have to remember that this is where I belong. Dove, please go ahead.
Okay, I want to thank Elizabeth, who happened to read the paragraph I put up. I meant to speak about the paragraph. Thanks, Elizabeth. Uh, Elizabeth said the above passage. Wow, guilt. Now the passage attracted me because I was looking for I guess I was looking for don't react or something like that, and up came this. I was looking for secret, and up came this thing, and what attracted me to it, it says down at the bottom. So this is like the one secret which the ego guards with its life, for its existence depends on keeping this secret. And let's start at the top of the paragraph. Much of the ego's strange behavior, and we know which is strange behavior, definitely a narcissist, is directly attributable to its definition of guilt. Interesting. To the ego, the guiltless are guilty. Those who do not attack are its enemies. Because by not valuing its interpretation of salvation, they are in an excellent position to let it go. They have approached the darkest and deepest cornerstones in the ego's foundation, and while the ego can withstand your raising all else to question, it guards this one secret with its life, for its existence depends on keeping this one secret. So it is this secret that we must look upon, for the ego cannot protect you against truth, and in its presence, its ego is dispelled. I guess I didn't put the next paragraph up, but I can tell you what the next paragraph is. if you don't attack your enemies, you are guilty. Does that remind you of anything? And I'm not bringing any politics into this, but it's called retribution. If you do not attack your enemies, you are guilty in the ego's thought system. You gotta laugh. That's it.
I love that, Devin. That's the same area. I just went and looked at it where he says, uh, uh, let's see, the wish, okay, you have handled this wish to kill yourself by not knowing who you are and identifying with something else. You have projected guilt blindly and indiscriminately, but you have not uncovered its source. For the ego does want to kill you. And if you identify with it, you must believe its goal is yours. So that's where that, the ego wants you dead basically comes from. Um, and he says that in a couple places, but the whole idea being that, it's self-destruction. All this hatred, all this projected fear, we're just siding with the ego and saying you're right. Guilt must be punished, and wow, wow, wow. Anyway, Karen, please go ahead.
Yeah, what Dove shared, that paragraph really goes so in line, and it's in the same chapter, in chapter 1 of 13. He tells us that the ego believes in atonement through attack, being fully committed to the insane notion that attack is salvation. So this is what the ego believes in, atonement through attack, because that is its salvation, because it wants to hold on to this identity, and think that this is really who I am. I am this body, and I will attack, anything that's true, and I will keep you mindless so you don't believe it, and it's powerful. I mean, all these things we're saying right now are so powerful, even though they're not true. When we put our belief in them, they are powerful. So that is why it's so important. These meetings are so important, and being reminded of the truth is so important, because this world is insane. Oh my gosh, it's so insane. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Karen. And we go right back to I have a kingdom I must rule. And I say that to myself a dozen times a day at least when the kingdom starts trying to rule me, or the ego starts trying to make me afraid or give me, some kind of guff. I'm in charge of this, and I can stop at any moment. And why I don't? Well, generally I do. So I'm so grateful for this course because I was like a wild maniac before I got this. Yeah, Dove, please go ahead.
I want to thank Karen for mentioning that. It's not our thoughts. I look at thoughts like teeth. They give you something to chew on. The ego is always talking to in a way in which you think it's real, but it's not our thoughts. It's our belief with a big lie in the center. That's actually our belief in our thoughts is what's killing us, not our thoughts. The thoughts are like raindrops. They don't mean anything. I used to say a long time ago, our thoughts are like someone once asked me, where do our thoughts come from? And the best example that I have of that is like a glass of champagne. Like, where do the bubbles that start at the very bottom come up and effervesce and then they disappear? That's what the ego's thoughts are. That the bubbles in a glass of champagne. And that is, it's also the idea from that Zen master. I can't think of his name right now, so maybe someone knows the Zen master, who says, "Hey, listen, your thoughts will come through the front door, go through and exit the back door. Just don't serve them tea. Don't entertain your thoughts."
Yeah, I love that, Dove. And
Suki, yes, Iris,
Suzuki.
thank
That's
you.
what I was thinking with Suzuki too.
Suki.
Thank you, Iris. Yay. All right, you guys, I love you all. Thank you so much. This has made a wonderful Saturday morning for me. and I'm going to a toga party this afternoon for my my son-in-law's birthday.
A
So
polka party or a toga party?
toga.
Oh,
Yeah, because today is the 15th, the Ides of March.
oh.
So they're having a toga themed party for his birthday. So I think that's going to be fun.
Yesterday was Pie Day.
Yes, I made apple pie. It was delicious. That's what I had for
No,
breakfast
no,
this morning.
no, 3.14.
I know, but on Pie Day, I always bake pies.
Okay, okay, apple pie. Okay.
Yeah, 3.14. Yep. So yeah, March has a lot of those. March 4th and so not like May the 5th, but
Yeah.
or May the 4th. May the 4th be with you.
We also have 420 coming up.
Yep, got 420 coming up, and that's a big holiday for my son and his business. So uh anyway, um I love you all, and we'll see you all later. Bye.
Oh, come back now, you hear?
Well, we will. Bye-bye.